I declined to help my neighbor with her renovation. A week later, I received a bill for supplies I never ordered, in my name. When I confronted her, she smiled and said, "You can pay me with your silence." I went to the store, asked for surveillance footage, and what I saw on the screen made me. I live in Erie, Pennsylvania, on a quiet street with mostly older homes and people who don't talk much unless someone's grass gets too high or a car alarm goes off in the middle of the night. I've been here for over a decade, and I like it that way, quiet, predictable, low drama. Then Cassandra Mitchell moved in next door. At first, I didn't think much of her. She seemed friendly enough. Early 40s, always dressed like she was going to an open house. She moved in alone, said she had gone through a rough divorce. She mentioned plans to fix up her place, said it was a fixer-upper with good bones. Fine. People fix houses all the time. But I noticed pretty quickly she was the kind of person who turned every little thing into an emergency. A clogged gutter became a neighborhood hazard. A broken fence panel was an open invitation for burglars. She always had a new complaint or a new project. She was nice when she needed something, cold when she didn't. About a month ago, she knocked on my door. Hard. She always knocked like she was the FBI. She asked me if I could help her tear down her detached garage over the weekend. Not supervise. Not recommend someone. She wanted help hauling wood and bricks and debris. I said no. I told her I had work to catch up on. Which was true. I'm an insurance investigator, and I had a backlog of files to go through. I didn't offer to help later. I didn't apologize. I just said no. She gave me this smile, fake, tight. One of those "I'll remember this" kinds of smiles. Then she said, "Fair enough. We all make our choices." And she left. I didn't think about her much after that. Exactly 1 week later, I got a call from the Lowe's on Peach Street. The guy on the line said my materials were ready for pickup. I told him I hadn't ordered anything. He read back the list: lumber, drywall, joint compound, adhesive, primer, and over 24 bags of cement. Almost $2,000 worth of supplies. I told him again, I didn't order anything. That's when he said, "Well, you already picked up the first part of the order yesterday." I froze. I hadn't been in a Lowe's in over a month. He said a woman had signed for it, under my name. I drove straight there. I asked for the invoice. Sure enough, there was my name scribbled across the bottom. I asked who signed. The guy squinted at me and said, "You did. Yesterday." I demanded to see the footage. At first he said no, that I'd need to come back with a manager's approval. I told him I was calling the cops if he didn't let me see who stole my identity. After some back and forth, they agreed. He took me into a back office where they had the cameras pulled up. We fast-forwarded to the day before. And there she was. Cassandra. Clear as day. Walking into the pickup area with a clipboard in her hand like she worked there. Smiling, laughing, joking around with the staff. Behind her was a guy helping her load materials into a truck, looked like a contractor. When she signed, she leaned on the counter and scribbled my name like it was hers. No hesitation. I recorded everything on my phone. I left Lowe's and went straight home. I was pissed, but also confused. Why me? Why so bold? I walked over and knocked on her door. She opened like she'd been waiting for me. "You used my name to buy materials?" I asked. "Are you out of your mind?" She didn't deny it. She didn't even look guilty. She just smiled and said, "You can pay me with your silence." I asked her what that meant. She shrugged and said, "Let's just say if you want to keep your job, you should mind your own business." And then she shut the door in my face. At first, I didn't get it. What the hell was she talking about? But the next morning, I found out. There was a cop car parked in front of my house. My job had received an anonymous tip that I was involved in insurance fraud. The company didn't fire me, but they suspended me while they looked into it. That's when it clicked. She knew what I did for a living. She must have seen my work files through my window, maybe even went through my trash. I didn't know what she had, but clearly enough to make it look like something shady was going on. She used me, then set me up. I decided if she wanted a war, she'd get one. I didn't go to the cops right away. I've been in this business long enough to know that you don't win by yelling first, you win by building a better case. So I started digging. I went online, searched her name, dug through property records, court records, news articles. I found out this wasn't the first time she pulled something like this. In Cleveland, she lived in a similar house. Filed multiple disputes with neighbors. One neighbor accused her of stealing his identity to open a store credit account at a Home Depot. Charges were dropped because of insufficient evidence. In Toledo, she sued a former landlord for emotional distress, then countersued him when he tried to evict her. Same story, something goes wrong, she flips the narrative. Everywhere she went, trouble followed. And then she disappeared. She was running a pattern. I wasn't going to be another quiet victim. So I went back to Lowe's. Got written confirmation from the manager that someone else signed under my name. I submitted everything, my footage, my call logs, the email from my job's HR department, to a lawyer. I also reported everything to the police. That wasn't enough for me. I wanted everyone to see what she did. So I sent everything I had. Video, photos, documents, to a reporter at a local news station. I used a burner email. Attached a short write-up. Told them who she was, what she did, and how she tried to ruin someone's life to get free cement and drywall. 2 weeks later, they ran the story. Front and center on the 6 o'clock news, Erie woman accused of using neighbor's identity for construction supplies. The photo they used? A still from the low surveillance footage, mid-laugh. She looked like she was on top of the world. Until she wasn't. After the news story aired, everything changed. Cassandra stopped smiling. She didn't come outside like she used to. The music that usually blasted from her backyard was gone. No more early morning hammering or loud arguments with her contractor buddy. For a while, it felt like she'd gone into hiding. But I knew better. She was planning something. I could feel it. A few days later, I noticed a car parked across the street. Dark sedan. Tinted windows. At first I thought it was a random visitor. But then it showed up again the next day. And the next. Always the same car. Always idling for about 30 minutes before leaving. I wrote down the plate and asked a cop I knew, old friend from school, to run it. Came back registered to a private security firm out of Pittsburgh. Weird, right? What would Cassandra need with security? That's when I remembered something. One of the names that came up when I looked into her past, Ray Vaughn. He was listed as a contractor on one of her lawsuits back in Ohio. I did some more digging. Ray wasn't just a contractor. He had a record for intimidation, stalking, and harassment. And guess who owns the security company parked across my house? Ray Vaughn's brother. I couldn't prove Cassandra sent them. But I knew. She wasn't just mad I exposed her. She was trying to scare me back into silence. I didn't back down. Instead, I started sending updates to the news station. Quietly, carefully. I gave them new info, how she might be connected to people with criminal records, how she had a history of using intimidation to shut people up. The reporter was all over it. He started asking around, digging into her Cleveland case again. He even called a few of her old neighbors. One guy finally talked. He said Cassandra got into a fight with him after he refused to lend her money for her renovation. 2 weeks later, someone broke into his shed, trashed his tools, and painted the words "Keep Quiet" on his garage door. Police couldn't prove it was her. But the timing lined up. When that neighbor saw the Erie news story, he came forward. He was ready to testify if it came to court. The story was growing. More reporters picked it up. Her name started trending locally. I kept feeding information, and she had no idea it was all coming from me. Then something strange happened. One night, I came home and my back window was cracked. Not broken all the way, just a clean, thin fracture, like someone tested it with a rock or tool. Nothing was taken. No forced entry. Just a message. I called the police. They said they'd keep an eye on it. But I knew that wouldn't help. So I installed a full security system. Motion lights. Cameras. Alarms. 3 nights later, around 2:37 a.m., I got a phone alert. Camera picked up movement near the side of my house. I opened the feed. It was her. Cassandra. In a hoodie, creeping around my trash bins. She had something in her hand, looked like a phone or camera. She didn't notice my infrared light. I got clear footage of her face. I sent it straight to the cops. That's when things got real. The detective in charge of her fraud case came back with a search warrant. Between the surveillance video, the Lowe's footage, and the broken window, it was enough for a search. They raided her house 2 days later. What they found? It made everything else look small. Stacks of documents, some with other people's names, addresses, social security numbers. Copies of ID cards. Fake utility bills. Contractor invoices with different names on them. They also found a USB drive. And on that drive were photos of me. Inside my house. Through the windows. Me at my desk. Me eating dinner. Even one of me sleeping on the couch. She'd been spying on me for weeks. Maybe longer. That USB drive changed everything. She wasn't just running a scam anymore. She was obsessed. That's when the feds stepped in. They took over the case. Identity theft. Fraud. Harassment. Possible violations of privacy laws. The story went national. And while all this was happening, I was still suspended from work. My company was waiting on the final outcome of the investigation. But I wasn't staying quiet. I had a plan. Cassandra thought she was done. But I was just getting started. The FBI got involved after they found that USB drive. Turns out Cassandra wasn't just messing with me, she'd done this to at least 4 other people in the past 5 years. Always neighbors. Always people with stable jobs and quiet lives. She'd use them as cover while she ran her scams. Every time someone said no to her or pushed back, she'd dig into their personal life, find dirt, fake more if she had to, and scare them into silence. But this time it blew up in her face. Between my evidence, the Lowe's footage, the USB drive, and testimonies from her former neighbors, the case against her was airtight. The charges kept stacking: identity theft, fraud, trespassing, wire fraud, intimidation, possession of stolen personal data, and stalking. She got indicted in federal court. But the real revenge didn't happen in court. That came later. Cassandra agreed to a plea deal to avoid a long trial. She thought she'd get probation and maybe house arrest again like in the past. But the judge wasn't playing games. 13 years. Federal prison. No early parole. In court, she kept looking at me. No tears. No apology. Just pure hate. Like she couldn't believe I'd fought back. Like she thought I was supposed to roll over like all the others. I didn't say a word. After the sentencing, the court ordered all her personal property seized. Her house went up for public auction. And here's the best part. I bought it. I bought Cassandra's house. It felt insane at first, but I had a reason. I wanted to fix every broken thing she left behind. The trash-filled yard. The busted fence. The half-finished garage. I wanted to erase her. Turn that house into something good. Something real. But I didn't move in. No. I donated it to a local shelter for women escaping domestic violence. That's right, her old house became a safe house. I used her mess to build something better. Her cousin, the fake contractor, also got jail time. 2 years for his part in the fraud and a few older charges that came up once police started digging into his past. The guy from Lowe's who signed off on the order without checking ID? He lost his job. Turned out he'd done similar shady favors for her before. Lowe's fired him, and a few other employees faced internal reviews. Even the security firm that parked across my house? They got hit too. Operating without a valid license in Pennsylvania. Shut down. Fined. And me? I thought everything would go back to normal after that. But it didn't. The truth is, I changed. I became less trusting. More private. I put up curtains. Changed my routines. I started locking everything, even if I was just taking out the trash. But I also got stronger. My company gave me my job back. Full back pay. And then they offered me a promotion I didn't ask for, head of fraud prevention for the region. I almost said no. But then I thought about it. How many people like Cassandra were out there? How many quiet, decent people were getting ruined by scammers just like her? So I took the job. I started giving talks. Helping train other investigators on how to spot behavior patterns like hers. I worked with police and private firms to help protect vulnerable people. Cassandra thought she could scare me into silence. But in the end, she gave me a louder voice than I ever had before. And if she ever Googles her own name from a prison library computer, she'll find every article, every court record, every clip of that surveillance footage. Because I made sure her real story, the one she tried to bury, will follow her for the rest of her life. Just like she tried to follow me. But I don't run. Not anymore.